everybody, it's Monday, September 8th, 2023. Welcome to the NFL Fantasy Football Show presented by Subway. It's me, your man MG Marcus Grant with Michael F. Florio. We got specialists in the building. Give yourselves a round of applause. Woo! All right, we appreciate you. Appreciate y'all helping out behind the scenes. We appreciate you guys watching and listening as well. We are almost through week 2, Florio, and I don't really know what to say. It's always easy to say it's a weird week. But injuries seem to be the order of the day the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, definitely. Injuries have been a big thing. It also felt like week 2 was kind of like the normalizing week. Like a lot of weird stuff happens in week 1, then week 2 happens and like you could kind of breathe a little bit.
Yeah, we always overreact wildly in one direction after week 1. This seemed like we were kind of coming back to earth a little bit in week 2. So we'll dive into that with some things we learned in week 2. Also have some top performers, biggest disappointments, and we'll play a round of Who'd You Rather. But let's start, as we always do, with some fantasy headlines. And speaking of injuries, Anthony Richardson was at the start of what looked like it was going to be a really big day. He had run for a couple of touchdowns, then suffers a concussion, exits the game. Gardner Minshew finishes things out for the Colts in their win over the Houston Texans. So we'll wait to see what the status is going to be for Richardson, who was off to a very good start this season. If he does not play next week against the Baltimore Ravens, are there any Colts you'd consider starting?
Yeah, well, if he plays, he's a must-start option moving forward, I think, just because of the rushing. If he sits, we did see Gardner Minshew target Michael Pittman Jr. a whole lot. As more of a pure pocket passer, I think we could expect a little bit of uptick in volume for him. I also think Zach Moss, I don't love him, but he played 55 of the 56 snaps this week. That's hard to ignore.
That's the thing, is that we were wondering how that backfield rotation was going to shake out. I mean, I know a lot of people were big on Evan Hull. Unfortunately, he is injured, so he's not available. And really, with no Evan Hull, if it's just Deion Jackson and Zach Moss looks like the guy. You mentioned the snap share that he played, 18 carries for 88 yards and a touchdown. So if there is a Colts running back to keep an eye on, it appears to be him. I do think if you have Gardner Minshew, I think that puts Michael Pittman back into play, just because Minshew's not going to run the way Richardson does. He's going to deliver the ball a little bit more, spread it around. So I think that does give Pittman some value, but the matchup is not great against a pretty good Ravens defense next week. Speaking of concussion issues, Davante Adams was evaluated for a concussion after the Raiders lost to the Buffalo Bills. So we know that last week, or this past week, I guess I should say, Jacoby Myers was out as he was in concussion protocol. Now we wait to see what's going to happen with Davante Adams. Any other Raiders pass catchers you're interested in?
If Adams is out and Myers is back, I could get interested in Jacoby Myers because I could see him getting a whole bunch of volume. It took injuries to both of them for Hunter Renfrow to come off of a milk carton, it felt like. So, yeah, if Adams and Myers are out, I think it is just avoid everyone from that passing attack.
It is avoid everyone from that passing attack. I mean, I'm not going to be interested in Hunter Renfrow. I know Michael Mayer, I think, got banged up at some point during that game as well. So the Raiders already very shorthanded when it comes to pass catchers. Does this make you even more worried about Josh Jacobs, too?
A little bit. I was telling you off air, like it looks like Josh Jacobs is kind of out there just going through the motions a little bit. He rushed for -2 yards yesterday, and I had said after week 1, like, oh, that was the Broncos defense shutting him down. Look at what Brian Robinson just did to that Broncos defense. I am a little bit concerned about Josh Jacobs right now.
I remember at one point I looked because I think he had 6 carries for like -6 or -8 yards or something. And I remember just staring at it thinking like, that can't be right. Like this has to be a typo of some sort, but no. That's what it was. 9 carries for -2 yards for Josh Jacobs. He did have 5 catches for 51 yards for what it's worth, but
got mossed too.
He did get mossed by Matt Milano. So you are expecting more out of Josh Jacobs, and you wonder if the Raiders don't have any pass catchers. Now, if you're an opposing defense, you just lock down on Josh Jacobs and you make life miserable there. Joe Burrow missed some time during the preseason as he was dealing with a calf injury. He came back, played week 1, didn't look good, came back and played again in week 2. The Bengals were slightly better, but the offense still not really clicking. In the meantime, Burrow tweaks the calf injury in that loss to the Ravens. We'll see, again, what this means. I mean, it's only Monday, so there's still plenty of time to kind of determine what this means. But if he can't go, what does this mean for the Cincinnati pass catchers?
It's not great. I still think T. Higgins and especially Jamar Chase are too good to get away from. But the bust factor of them is very high. And I don't know if it was on this show or one of the other many shows that we do together, but last week I kind of said I watched back that Bengals game, and Joe Burrow did not look right. A lot of air under his passes, a lot of just getting rid of the ball quickly. I had chalked it up, though, to miss the preseason. He's getting his rust off. It's week 1. He looked just as uncomfortable in week 2. He is not right. I think maybe the best case scenario is to let him sit and rest, but at 0-2, they know what is at stake. So it wouldn't surprise me if he tries to go. But either way, I think you start your Bengals pass catchers, but they are trending down in a big way right now.
I mean, that was the thing that Jamar Chase said in the preseason. Said, hey, man, you should just rest. Don't come back till week 5. We got this. I don't think they anticipated starting 0-2, and now they're staring down having to deal with the Rams. They do have the Titans and the Cardinals after that, so it does sort of lighten up for them, but they got to get some wins.
Yeah.
You would believe they need Joe Burrow to do that, and you talk about him struggling. I think he had like 85 passing yards at halftime. It was another rough start. He sort of rebounded and kind of salvaged a little bit of something, but the Bengals have not looked like the Bengals the first couple of weeks. I'm with you. I think Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, they're too good to get away from, regardless of who the quarterback is. And for the record, Jake Browning is the backup quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals. So, I mean, you're not starting Jake Browning, but I think he knows enough to get the ball to Chase and to Higgins. So those guys still, I think, have some value. Tyler Boyd, you probably want to get away from if Joe Burrow can't go, but definitely a thing to monitor as the week goes along. Speaking of things to monitor, Saquon Barkley left the Giants game with an apparent ankle injury. The Giants are getting tests on it. They're optimistic that he's going to be able to go, but Florio, it's a short week. They go to Santa Clara to take on the San Francisco 49ers on Thursday Night Football. The Giants finally got it going in the second half against the Cardinals, but they looked miserable in the first half. If they don't have Saquon, do you stay away from this offense altogether in fantasy?
Yeah, the only Giant I will be playing this week is Darren Waller, just because he's a tight end and the volume that he could get, especially if they are trailing. But I'm not starting. I was toying with the idea of saying to sit Saquon Barkley against the 49ers defense, and then I was like, no, I can't in good faith tell people to sit Saquon. Matt Breida is the easiest sit of all time against that defense. Their receivers, there's no one to get excited for. And then Daniel Jones, I put out a tweet because everyone was giving me some stuff about saying to start Daniel Jones. He's a QB1 on the week right now. But remember what he looked like against that Cowboys defense who got a bunch of pressure on him?
Yeah.
The Niners get just as much pressure on quarterbacks. So, yeah, I think it's a week to get away from Daniel Jones.
Yeah, speaking of Daniel Jones, I suggested to my wife she sit Russell Wilson in place of Daniel Jones. And in the first half, I was feeling like a fool. In the second half, Jones rallied and made things a little bit better for my home life. So thank you for that, Danny Dimes. But if there is no Saquon Barkley, I don't think you can start Daniel Jones. He's going to be under constant pressure. I'm with you in Darren Waller. Side note, I don't understand why Jalen Hyatt didn't get more opportunity yesterday. 2 catches for 89 yards on his only 2 targets. Only ran 11 routes. In the meantime, they're trying to make it happen with Darius Slayton and Isaiah Hodgins and Paris Campbell. At some point, just get your speed guy out there and see if he can pop a couple of big plays for you.
He is their best wide. I am confident in saying that. Like, if you gave him the same amount of opportunities as every other Giants receiver, he would finish with the best numbers just because he can actually win downfield. No one else on that team can.
That is the thing that the Giants are missing significantly, and it may be a thing they need if they don't have Saquon Barkley to try to grind out some hard yards against that 49er run defense. So all things we'll keep an eye on as the week progresses when it comes to injuries and what it could mean for your fantasy lineup. In the meantime, let's take a quick look back at what we saw over the last couple of days with things we learned in week 2. What is one of your big takeaways from what you saw on Sunday?
Kyren Williams is 100% the real deal. I had said to sit him because of the matchup against the 49ers, and he made me look foolish. 96% of the snaps, 43 routes ran, 14 carries, 10 targets. In total, he goes for 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 28 fantasy points against the team that has allowed the fewest yards and the fewest fantasy points since the start of the 2022 season to running backs. Like, I was shocked to see that he's only rostered in still less than half of NFL.com leagues, because in every league I'm in, he went for big fab last week. Be ready to spend up big on him, because he is 100% here to stay, and looks like him and Puka look like league winners right away from week 1 on.
Yeah, that was the big question, is what they would do against the 49er defense, and the answer is a lot. They both looked really good against the 49ers, and I do think the Rams offense is one we have to pay attention to, because Matt Stafford looked very good, had a lot of time to throw the football. So if Kyren Williams is the real deal, that means it's a wrap for Cam Akers, at least with the Rams. He was a healthy scratch. I know he tweeted that he was just as surprised as everybody else. He didn't know what was going on. The reports are that he basically just is not buying into the culture that Sean McVay is trying to put together there in Los Angeles. Meanwhile, Kyren Williams is going out, as Florio mentioned, and getting big opportunities and doing big things for them. There is talk that the Rams may try and trade Cam Akers, or that they may release him. If you've got Akers on your roster, I think you hold for now just to see where he might end up. Maybe he goes to a team that's going to use him more. Maybe he ends up in a slightly better situation. At least see what the immediate future is going to be, and then you can decide to make a decision. But at least in the meantime, there is no way you can play Cam Akers, because it doesn't seem like there's any way that the Rams are going to play Cam Akers. So this was a guy that in the middle of fantasy draft season, I started to get big on, then I started to back off of, and I was surprised at how many teams I have him on, and was kicking myself a little bit come Sunday afternoon. So now I got to make some moves. There's another running back that you are very concerned about right now.
Yeah, Dameon Pierce is a running back that I thought had breakout potential. I thought he could play I never bought into he's going to be the CMC of this 49ers type offense that the Texans are trying to employ, but I thought he'd get more pass game usage, and I thought we don't have to worry about him as a runner at all. We know how great he is. He has 82 total yards through 2 games. And shout out to our boy Laquan Jones. Follow him at Real Deal Fantasy on Twitter. He put out that the Texans at O-line as a whole right now has a 56.8 run blocking grade from PFF. That is not good. This O-line is just dragging Dameon Pierce down right now, and their passing game is better than anticipated. CJ Stroud is doing a good job getting Nico Collins and Tank Dell the ball, but the run game, it's just broken right now. So I feel like moving forward, peek behind the curtain, Dameon Pierce is a sit for me in week 3, and I'm very concerned about him on a few rosters where I thought he could be my RB1 this season.
I did worry a little bit that game script could be an issue for the Texans. I didn't think it'd be as much of an issue, because CJ Stroud has thrown the ball a ton of times. He's got 91 pass attempts in his first 2 games. So you think about it, 91 pass attempts for CJ Stroud. Dameon Pierce has run 19 routes. He is not involved in the Texans passing game. You mentioned the inefficiency running the football. At this point, it's hard to put any kind of faith in Dameon Pierce. I didn't have any faith in Mike Evans, and so I just want to put it out there. Mike Evans, I'm sorry. I didn't believe. I thought this was going to be the year that your 1,000-yard streak would end. Through the first 2 weeks, I look like an idiot. You and Baker Mayfield seem to have some kind of connection. Baker Mayfield has learned what plenty of Buccaneers quarterbacks before him have learned. Mike Evans is down there somewhere, and he is throwing go balls. He is getting Mike Evans involved, and Evans right now looks every bit the part of a wide receiver 1. Tampa has been almost as pass-heavy this year as they have been in the past, which is something that I didn't see coming. Now, granted, they have had a kind of soft schedule to begin the season, but shout out to Baker Mayfield for making plays, getting things done, and having Mike Evans be a big part of it. So this is my mea culpa that I was completely wrong on Mike Evans, and right now he is very much a wide receiver 1 going forward. You can totally believe.
I will piggyback on that. I was 100% wrong as well.
Yeah, I was very wrong. One guy that we weren't wrong on, we both like Sam Laporta. He's been great so far.
He is a top 10 fantasy tight end. You look at week 1, he was the tight end 8. You look at week 2 currently, he is the tight end 8. On the year, though, the tight end 4, the only tight ends who have more fantasy points right now than Sam Laporta, TJ Hawkinson, Hunter Henry, Evan Ingram. And he's consistently getting 5-6 targets. I expect him to get even more volume as the season goes on. What do we always hear? The learning curve is so high for a rookie tight end. Through 2 weeks, his first 2 games as an NFL player, he's the 4th best fantasy tight end right now. On a Lions team that I think is going to have to throw the ball, especially if David Montgomery is out the next couple of weeks. I just keep adding him because he's still rostered in far too little leagues right now. Sam Laporta is the real deal.
Yeah, he's absolutely real. I mean, especially because they're not asking him to block, run routes, get open, catch the football. Right now, he's rostered in fewer than 20% of NFL.com leagues. Fix that, everybody. Fix it. My last thing that I learned, to quote the Beatles, all you need is love. Jordan Love has been pretty good in the first 2 weeks of the season. Back-to-back games with 3 touchdown passes for Jordan Love. He's running the football. Look, nobody's going to confuse him for Lamar Jackson, but 23 rushing yards in week 2. He's yet to throw an interception. And on Sunday, he did that without Christian Watson, without Aaron Jones. He was getting guys like Dontavian Wicks involved. He was getting the rookie tight end Luke Musgrave involved. Jordan Love is really evolving into the position. Again, he's not going to make you forget about Aaron Rodgers really soon in Green Bay, but he's holding his own. He's not the reason that the Packers lost to the Falcons on Sunday. And if you've got him on your roster, he's becoming a guy that you can feel confident as a streamer. Should definitely be in your lineup in 2 quarterback leagues. Off to a very good start this year is Jordan Love. We are just getting started here on this edition of the NFL Fantasy Football Show. We're going to take a quick break, come back and give you some of our top performers and our biggest disappointments of the week. Also, play a little bit of Who'd You Rather with some confusing backfield situations. That's coming up next on the NFL Fantasy Football Show presented by Sunray. Top performers for week 2. Daniel Jones right now is your QB1, 30.7 points, 321 passing yards, couple of touchdowns, also ran for a score. Brian Robinson, good start to the year, 129 total yards, 2 touchdowns, also had a couple of receptions, nearly 29 points for him. Keenan Allen had a day, 111 yards, a pair of touchdowns. He had over 31 points. TJ Hawkinson, going back to Thursday night, 7 catches, 66 yards, a pair of tutties, 25.6 points for him. Brandon Aubrey for the Dallas Cowboys, 5 field goals and a PAT. That was good for 18 points. And the Bucs defense taking advantage of the Bears offense, 6 sacks, 2 picks, and a touchdown, 17 points for them. Let's talk about some of the top performers for the week. Right now, Daniel Jones is your QB1, but Russell Wilson, QB3 on the week. It did take a Hail Mary right near the end of the game for that to happen. So through 2 weeks, is Russ cooking, or was this just sort of a fluky thing?
Look, I'm not the biggest Russell Wilson supporter for fantasy purposes, but right now he is cooking. Last week, he didn't do a whole lot in terms of yardage, but he did throw multiple touchdowns. He's on the year right now, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. So, I mean, that's already a third of the touchdown passes he threw all of last season. The Broncos might not be what we had anticipated them to be, but Sean Payton has made Russell Wilson. He's never going to be like Seattle Russell Wilson. He's not the runner he used to be or anything, but this is the best he's looked as a passer, I would say, probably since he hurt his hand 2 years ago.
As of this moment, he is the QB4. Now, I don't expect that he's going to keep that going all year long, but he does look better. And we saw that at the end of last year, once Nathaniel Hackett was gone too, that what Russ sort of turned things around. I think he will be, when it's all said and done, kind of a fringe QB1. I think he's going to take a few steps back, but it does appear that there's something different this year with him than there was last year. So if you drafted him kind of as a QB2, I think you sort of keep the faith, because he looks like he's going to return that sort of faith for you in fantasy. Mentioned Brian Robinson, off to a very good start so far this year. A couple of touchdowns on Sunday. Is he taking the lead in that Washington backfield?
Oh, it is. He is the running back to start in this backfield right now. 18 of the 20 running back carries. He played a whole bunch of snaps. He ran 17 routes to Gibson's 24. That's the one area he hasn't fully shaken Gibson yet, but all of the touches in that backfield are going his way. All the ground touches, at least. He's getting involved in the passing game. I mean, he dropped nearly 30 points, and then next week he gets the Bills, who we know you can run on. Another peek behind the curtain. He is a start for me in my start him sit him in week 3.
I know I went back and forth between Gibson and Robinson all year long, or all summer long during draft season. I think I kind of split the difference between the two of them. I feel a lot better right now about the Brian Robinson teams than I do about the Antonio Gibson teams. It looks like he really has locked in a role here. Sam Howell, look, the Washington Commanders offense has its ups and downs, but Howell looks to be more of a downfield passer, which I think does not bode well for Gibson, and Robinson getting that goal line work and the short yardage work helps him a lot. I gave my apology to Mike Evans. I know neither one of us liked Rachaad White going into the season, but kudos to the Bucs and to Rachaad White. He had himself a pretty nice day against the Chicago Bears. I still am not long-term buying into this, but it was a good week for him.
I will take the L on the week because I even despite the great matchup against the Bears was like, I don't think this inefficient back could take advantage of it. And he did, until you look at it and you realize it's pure volume based. Like there's no big plays in Rachaad White's game. He's averaging 3.3 yards per carry right now. Baker Mayfield is not throwing him the ball like everyone. It's still, people are like, Baker checks down all the time. I'm like, no, he does not. Especially when you compare him to Tom Brady, who does it more than anyone. That's why the Bucs running backs had so many catches last season. Rachaad White, good game. Next week, the matchup is much tougher. I think that right now is the sell high opportunity on Rachaad White.
Rachaad White ran 25 routes, got 5 targets. I mean, it's fine. I think he's a matchup-based guy. He's sort of Isaiah Pacheco in a less good offense, is kind of a way to look at it. He's not very efficient running the football. He gets occasional work in the passing game. He's going to be great when the matchup is right. When the matchup is not right, he should probably be left on your bench. The matchup was right. He took advantage of it against Chicago on Sunday. On the other side, guys who were disappointments. The Jaguars' offense as a whole was really underwhelming on Sunday against the Kansas City Chiefs. Trevor Lawrence, kind of chief among them. I guess you could lump in, though, some of his wide receivers, Calvin Ridley, Zay Jones. It just was not a great day for the Jaguars this week.
No, and I thought it would be a much higher scoring game between these two. And now next week he gets the Houston Texans, which might look like a get-right game on paper. He struggled mightily against them last season, both times. They've only allowed 1 passing touchdown this season, and since the start of last season, they've allowed the fewest passing touchdowns in the league. So I'm not so sure next week is going to be the get-right game for Trevor Lawrence that everyone might be anticipating.
I also think what we saw yesterday was sort of indicative of what the season's going to be, in the sense that Christian Kirk had the big game where we didn't see much from Ridley, and Zay Jones didn't have a completion to him. He almost had a touchdown, couldn't get the second foot in bounds, so he ends up with 0 points on Sunday. And I think we're going to sort of see that. There will be the Calvin Ridley games, there'll be the Kirk games, there will be the Jones games. And, if you have Trevor Lawrence, chances are you will take advantage of all of them. If you were starting one of those individual receivers, it's going to be a roulette wheel all year long. Alexander Madison has not had a very good start to the season. It was a rough game for him on Thursday. I had questions. I just didn't draft Madison because I didn't know what to expect. And so far, we can see that he's certainly not giving you what Dalvin Cook gave you. And it's getting harder to start Madison, I think, on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, he was a big fade for me coming into the year because my thinking was the Vikings are going to be one of the pass-heaviest teams in football. They were last season, but Dalvin Cook can make up for that because of the big playability he has. Alexander Madison does not have that sort of big playability in him. He is a volume-dependent back, and through 2 games, he's looked like a career backup so far. And now he gets the Chargers, who I think on paper, people are like, you can run on this team. They have been great at stopping backs up the middle this year. It's outside carries they struggle on. Alexander Madison doesn't really take advantage of those. So I don't even feel great about him heading into week 3.
62 yards on 19 carries. That's 3.3 yards per carry for Alexander Madison. Just 21 receiving yards on 6 catches, 3.5 yards per reception there. Just not a lot to spin positive for Alexander Madison. We're going to try to spin positive on some confusing committee situations with a little bit of who'd you rather. And so let's start in Philadelphia. They've got, I guess, in theory, 4 different running backs that they could be using. So who would you rather between DeAndre Swift, who had a big Thursday night, Kenneth Gainwell, who had a nice week 1, Boston Scott, and just for laughs, let's put Rashad Penny in there too. Who would you rather from that group?
Easily DeAndre Swift for me. I know there was no Kenneth Gainwell in week 2, and we have to see what this backfield looks like when they're both healthy and out there. But I think it's too hard to ignore the fact that DeAndre Swift went out there and had more yards than Kenneth Gainwell has had in any game in his entire NFL career. And add in the fact that the offense looked right once they started feeding DeAndre Swift more. I believe that he is the best back that they have to replace what Miles Sanders gave them last year. Even a little bit more explosive, a little bit better as a pass catcher. To me, he's just the all-around best back, but I'm not ready to say Kenneth Gainwell is completely gone yet.
He's not gone at all. Swift is the guy that I would put top of the list. Gainwell is behind him at number 2. And right now, Boston Scott is the number 3 running back there. Rashad Penny, and I said this on Fantasy Live last week, Rashad Penny is droppable in fantasy leagues at this point because he was a healthy scratch week 1. Week 2, he played 8 snaps. All of them came with the Eagles leading by double digits. Also had a very costly holding penalty in there. He's going to be the odd man out. I think you're going to see a lot of Swift, a lot of Gainwell with some occasional Boston Scott sprinkled in. Swift is the guy, as you mentioned, I think is the most talented in that group. Bears running backs. They got Roschon Johnson. They got Khalil Herbert. They have Deontay Foreman, who was a healthy scratch in week 2. Who do you want from that group there?
It's still Khalil Herbert for me right now. He played 59% of the snaps compared to 43 for Roschon. He had 7 carries, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but was more than any other Bears running back. He also had more targets than Roschon Johnson, which I think is significant. He is still their clear lead back, but Roschon Johnson, I think, is someone you could pick up for upside and stash for later in the year. I said it on the show last week. If we get rid of Deontay Foreman, which we did in week 2, I think that these two backs can coexist and both be fantasy relevant.
I guess it's Herbert. I mean, I guess in theory, I don't really want any of them. But if I had to pick one, it's Herbert because he's got the pass catching upside. I'm not going to say that Foreman is in Rashad Penny territory where he's droppable, but it's getting hard to make a case to keep him on your roster. We'll see what happens in week 3. If he's a healthy scratch again or gets very little opportunity, then you could probably say goodbye to Deontay Foreman. Let's do one more. Let's look in Baltimore at their running back situation. They've got Gus Edwards. They've got Justice Hill. Both those guys stepping in for the injured J.K. Dobbins. Is there one that is leaps and bounds ahead of the other for you?
No, I think they're both RB3s, and neither one that I would be excited to get into my lineup. They split snaps 54% to 46 in favor of Justice Hill. Hill had 11 to 10 carries. He also had 3 targets to Gus Edwards' 0, but Edwards put up more yards, scored the touchdown. He is the one that I feel better about of the two, but I think they're very, very similar. They're both kind of just like low-end RB3s that you start if you gotta, but you don't feel great doing it.
I started Gus Edwards in a league, and it wasn't a bad outing for him, but I'm with you. I think Justice Hill is going to get just as much run. It's frustrating because it looked like the Ravens were going to be a one-back team, that it was going to be heavy J.K. Dobbins until the injury. The injury is forcing them to change course, and I think both of these guys are going to get a lot of opportunity. And, of course, as we always mention, Lamar Jackson's going to run the football as well, so that's going to naturally take away from what Edwards and Hill can produce at their ceiling. All right, time for another break. We're going to come back, dive into the waiver wire, get you some drops and ads, or ads and drops, however you want to look at it, for Week 3. Also, take some of your social questions. That's as we wrap things up here on the NFL Fantasy Football Show. It's time for the waiver wire presented by YouTube TV. Florio's got his top targets for the week. Who you got?
At quarterback, Russell Wilson, who's been playing well. Sam Howell, who adds some value with his legs. And then you spoke about Jordan Love earlier on the show. Kyron Williams, who I didn't have on this list originally because I thought he was way too highly rostered. Matt Breida in case Saquon is hurt. Zach Moss, Gus Edwards, and Justice Hill. And then Roschon Johnson just for some late season upside. At wide receiver, Nico Collins needs to be picked up. Don't overlook Tutu Atwell just because of what Puka's doing. Marvin Mims Jr. deserves more run and should be picked up. Jaden Reed had 2 touchdowns yesterday. Tank Dell scored a touchdown yesterday. Jalen Hyatt needs to get more playing time. He is a sneaky pickup right now. And then some tight ends. Sam Laporta we spoke a lot about. Hayden Hurst, I know he plays tonight, but great matchup next week against Seattle. Zach Ertz is getting so much volume, as is Hunter Henry, that you cannot continue to ignore those guys on the waiver wire.
So you can check those guys out. If you want more waiver wire goodness, check out Matt Okada's weekly column at NFL.com/waiverwire. Let's talk about a few of these, though. If you have your top waiver priority, or if you're going to blow a bunch of fab this week, who is the guy you're going after?
Nico Collins, he is the real deal. Like, he went out yesterday, had 9 targets, 7 catches, a $146 and a touchdown. But it's not just like it was a 1-week thing. Through 2 weeks, he's averaging double-digit targets per game. He's averaging 113 yards per game and just under 21 fantasy points per game. You got to pick this guy up.
Definitely Nico Collins going to be the wide receiver 1 there in Houston. We talked about Gus Edwards, though. He's another guy you should be targeting off the waiver wire simply because the running back situation around the league, a little bit questionable. You got Cam Akers, who looks like he's out in Los Angeles. Rashad Penny out in Philadelphia. Saquon Barkley maybe banged up this week. You're going to need running back help. Gus Edwards is the guy that you want. We know the Ravens are going to run the football a lot. It's going to be split between he and Justice Hill, but we know Edwards can be explosive. We've seen it in the past. If you need running back help, he should be on your roster. We're going to go through this again. Who's another guy that should be heavily invested in this week?
Zach Moss. I know we had questions about this Colts backfield. He played all but 1 snap yesterday. He had 18 carries, 4 targets, went for over 100 yards, scored a touchdown. I know he's not going to play the Texans every week, but when you're seeing volume like that, it is way too good to ignore and to leave on the waiver wire. Zach Moss needs to be a priority pickup this week.
Since we're going on the running back theme, Kyron Williams, we'll mention him again after what he did against the San Francisco 49ers. He looks like the RB1, 96% of the snaps. That is hard to ignore. Ronnie Rivers got a couple of opportunities basically when Williams needed to catch his breath, but this looks like his backfield for the foreseeable future. If we're going a little bit deeper, who's a deep waiver wire target people should know about?
Tank Dell. Do not ignore him. And I know people are going to be like, oh, he's your size, but it doesn't matter. He had 10 targets yesterday, scored a touchdown, 7 catches, 72 yards. He also had a second touchdown that was called back due to penalty. And this happened in the preseason. People are like, oh, this guy can't score touchdowns. He led college football in red zone touchdowns last season. Just because he's small does not matter. He can get open very quickly. He's going to earn volume. CJ Stroud said, give me this guy in the NFL draft. They're going to have big plans for him.
So Tank Dell is a deeper waiver wire pick. Also Tutu Atwell, who was on Florio's list there. I know right now we are engraving Puka Nakua's name on the Fantasy Rookie of the Year trophy after 2 weeks, but let's not overlook what Tutu Atwell has done. He also had 119 receiving yards in the first game of the season for the Rams, and he came back in week 2, another solid outing, 7 catches for 77 yards. Nakua and Atwell are the 2 guys that Matthew Stafford is targeting heavily in the passing game. And look, he's another small guy, but he's finding ways to get open, especially in the middle of zone coverage. And if you need wide receiver help or just want some depth at the position, Tutu Atwell is a name that you should know. So if you're adding guys, you got to drop somebody. Who are you saying goodbye to at this point?
I'm dropping Rashad Bateman, who's averaging 3 targets per game, who is playing less snaps than Nelson Aguilar right now. Like, I know but the fantasy community loves hyping this guy up. Zay Flowers is the receiver you want there. Get rid of Bateman.
And even that was with, Odell Beckham getting hurt too.
Yeah.
Aguilar still getting some opportunity. I have another Rashad. This one is Rashad Penny, and I talked about him a little bit earlier. Didn't play at all in week 1, barely played in week 2 when he was playing. The Eagles already had the game pretty much well in hand at that point. The big holding call that ended up erasing a touchdown to A.J. Brown. I just don't see a lot of opportunities for Rashad Penny getting on the field. So at this point, there's no point of him hanging in on your fantasy roster. Okay, let's get some of your questions, as we like to do at this time in the show. We went to websites, twitter.com, and pulled some of the things that you guys had on your mind. So we'll rip through a few of them here. Let's start with this one from Nate, who wants to know, is Puka him? Your thoughts?
Yes, next question. I mean, he had 20 targets yesterday after having 15 in week 1, 147 yards after 109. Like, the way that he is being used right now, I thought he'd be Robert Woods. He's actually being Cooper Kupp. And one thing, Marcus, I think maybe as a community, we kind of forgot the genius that is Sean McVay after last season.
I think we did, because last year the offensive line was bad. Matthew Stafford was always under pressure, couldn't get the ball out. This year, Stafford looks like he has time. He's delivering the ball efficiently, effectively to his guys. Puka Nacua looks great. I saw somebody tweet that I hope when Cooper Kupp comes back, he gets to play the Puka Nacua role in the Rams offense. That's kind of what it looks like. Moving on to the next question. This one from Jonathan. Is it time to bench Justin Fields for Daniel Jones?
No, only because Daniel Jones on a short week is getting the San Francisco 49ers on the road without Saquon Barkley. Like, the odds are stacked against him. And the Chiefs defense have shut down Goff and Trevor Lawrence to start the year. It's no cakewalk next week for Justin Fields. I would still play Fields over Jones.
I would still play Fields. And I think in balance, those two guys are going to end up being sort of about the same this year. So if you've got both of them, you're going to have the headache of week to week trying to figure out which one you want to start. But I do understand the concern because the Bears offense has looked awful in the first couple weeks of the season. Moving along, this next one is from Mike, who wants to know, is Kyle Pitts ever going to be utilized in the Falcons offense? Deep sigh.
I mean, it's so frustrating to see Jonnu Smith get used over him. I'm just going to – I did not see that coming, but I'm willing to give Kyle Pitts one more shot because next week they play the Detroit Lions, who have allowed the most yards to tight ends so far this season, and that's not even playing Travis Kelce in week 1. So it seems like a weakness there. I'm willing to give him another shot. If he struggles in week 3 – yeah, then it's time we have a real serious talk.
I think we need to have a serious talk, but because you've invested in him, it's hard to move along depending on what your other tight end options are out there. Maybe you're scouring the waiver wire and trying to stream, but it is apparent that the Falcons don't want to heavily involve him in the passing game. I don't think they really want to throw the ball unless they have to. They kind of had to on Sunday. Desmond Ridder had 32 pass attempts. I don't think that's going to be the norm, and I think Kyle Pitts is ultimately going to be frustrating for a lot of people all year long. It's not about talent. It's basically just about scheme. Next one up from Spencer wants to know, what's going on with Jamar Chase? Any answers there?
It's a Joe Burrow issue. It is not a Jamar Chase issue. Joe Burrow has not completed a pass of 20 or more yards this season. And on pass attempts of 10 or more air yards, he's 5 of 21 with no touchdowns, 1 interception, and a 21.9 rating. Like, the issue is on Joe Burrow right now. He is not right. He is not healthy, but he's dragging down Jamar Chase, unfortunately.
Yeah, Jamar Chase is going to be fine, you would believe. It's sort of like with Kyle Pitts. It's not about talent. It's not about, the player individually. It's about what's going on around him. And right now, until the Bengals passing game picks things up, Jamar Chase is going to be sort of an up-and-down guy. But, again, you probably spent the 2nd or 3rd overall pick on Jamar Chase. Do you really have somebody better on your bench that you're going to go with? It's frustrating, but keep the faith and believe the Bengals are going to get this thing figured it out. David wants to know, so, Drake London, what?
Drake London is going to be what Drake London kind of has been through the first 2 weeks. Like, he saw 7 targets in this game, which isn't a whole lot more than he saw in week 1. He just had some better results, caught a touchdown. He is going to be, in my opinion, frustrating week to week all year long.
That is going to apply to all the Falcons pass catchers. It's going to be up and down. Weirdly, the guy you could probably count on the most is Mac Hollins, and only because your expectations for Mac Hollins aren't really that high to begin with. So, I mean, I guess, yeah, it is what it is with Drake London. You can start him. He's a low-end wide receiver, too, who may occasionally have some spike weeks. Last one, Broken Ninja wants to know, should we keep Garrett Wilson or trade him out?
I would be trying really hard right now to trade Garrett Wilson because it looks like, oh, he's still afloat with Zach Wilson. You saw that amazing catch he had on Monday Night Football. Then he had a 68-yard touchdown yesterday. Besides those 2 plays, it has been extremely rough for Garrett Wilson with Zach Wilson, and I don't see it getting any easier. So I would try to sell high while he still has that name recognition and he's still putting up pretty good stats.
Yeah, I mean, I would try if you could. I think the problem is everybody in your league knows who the quarterback is for the New York Jets. Maybe hang on to him because there's an idea that maybe the Jets go out and make a move and try to bring in another quarterback. We'll see. If they ride with Zach Wilson, it's going to be a struggle all year long, but maybe they get somebody else who can sort of help the situation, and then maybe that gives Garrett Wilson a little bit more value going forward. Oh, hopefully things get better. We'll see. Appreciate all your questions. Of course, you can always hit us up on Twitter at NFL Fantasy, or you can hit us up individually on our Twitter accounts as well. In the meantime, we appreciate you hanging out with us. That is it. We are done. We appreciate you hanging out with the NFL Fantasy Football Show presented by Subway. You know the drill. Tell 2 friends to tell 2 friends. Rate, review, and remember, the quickest way to double your money is to fold it over and put it back in your pocket. Be safe, take care of yourselves, and we'll talk to you again real soon.